Hey guys, Jantans and Jantanites, Jason Desmond here from the Jantan Collective. How's everyone doing? Remember, first things first, subscribe, like, and comment below because we want to hear from you. Lots to talk about here, but if there's something that you want to talk about and you want us to get in all the experts, please do get in touch because we want to hear from you. Once again, subscribe, like, and comment. Now, very interesting facts. Back in 1957, this is Merdeka years, okay? A bungalow in Lake Gardens in the KL city center cost only 60,000 ringgit, okay? This is not per month, 60,000 ringgit. Land could be bought for just 30 cents per square foot in PJ. And we were just talking about this, it's like, this is not maintenance fee. You could buy it. Now, fast forward to 2020, the average price housing in KL is almost 800,000 ringgit. What's up with that? Seriously. So can we afford property in this current situation, in this current market? Lots to talk about here, and to do that, we have the experts. We have with us Dato Seri Vincent Tiew, property entrepreneur. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Jason.
I want to find out what property entrepreneur means. Are you a developer? Or what do you do? We'll get to that soon.
Sure.
Also, Victor Chua, Chief Business Officer of MHub. What does MHub stand for? Is it an acronym? Is it an abbreviation?
MHub is whatever you would like it to be.
What does that mean?
Well, the M there has got many connotations.
Malaysia
It's
lah.
Malaysia Hub. It's because we are a Malaysia-based company. It's Mortgage Hub.
All right.
It's My Ownership Hub. So it's basically M is generic. It can be Money Hub.
Manly Hub.
Manly Hub, Jantan Hub, but with an
Ooh,
M.
I like that. I like that. All right. Now, Dato Seri Vincent Tiew, property entrepreneur. I read that. I'm like, what does property entrepreneur mean? Do you develop property? Do you buy property? I know there's a major project that's coming out and you're a part of it. What is it that you do when it comes to properties?
Okay, well, officially I'm attached with a property development company right now, which is pretty unique, that we are embarking on a healthcare and a wellness city project.
Right.
With the medical as a support. So it's like a healthcare medical city at Bukit Jalil. So that's, I'm an executive director in this property development company that we're going to do a big launch in 2021. Now, entrepreneur is in the sense that I like to invest into a lot of startup companies, be it in property related, e-commerce related, education related, etc.
All right.
So I'm an entrepreneur. So apart from my career as being in the property development companies, developing projects, developing buildings and iconic landmarks projects and all that, townships, etc. That I like to invest. So that's connotation of entrepreneur there.
Right.
And partly because of that, in my early years before age 40, then I was the top 10 Young Malaysia Business Awards winner under the JCI. So under the age of 40. So that's partly because I invest. I've taken a little bit of business acumen investing and then grooming up different businesses.
So you've been in the entrepreneur game from the get-go?
No, that's recent years, probably in the last 10 years, investing into international schools and etc.
Right.
So when I invest means I don't run, all those investments, I don't run the companies at all.
Yeah.
I'm involved. Some companies I'm a director, when I invest means I'm the shareholders. And I do help sit in brainstorming, managements and etc. there. But primarily, I'm very focused on property development. That's my forte. That's what I've been doing in the last 15, 20 years.
So property development, also buying and selling on your own, investing here, that's something that you absolutely love.
Yes, of course. Yeah. So property is the game. Come from a very traditional family and education background, whereby bricks and mortar, I believe, and I still believe until today, that's the basis, the fundamental of wealth accumulation.
Right.
Yeah.
And Victor, how
Yes,
long have
sir.
you been playing around with the property market?
I've been involved in property development for most of my adult life. I was attached to a listed property company. It was dabbling in resort development and more general housing, residential type properties back in Johor, where I come from.
Right.
Then subsequently, I was involved in a boutique development firm with another partner, and I exited in 2017. And one of my passions has always been tech, and so I pivoted towards that. And I'm now part of MHub, which is coincidentally a property technology company.
Right.
So yeah, that's my history.
We're still trying to figure out what MHub
Yeah.
really means. But
I think it's more important what MHub does.
does.
Yeah, what MHub does is it's an end-to-end digital property platform where if you like, we are akin to an iOS for an Apple or an Android system.
Okay.
So we are the back-end system that powers the property sales, primarily in the new launches.
Okay.
Right? Although we are looking at other markets, including sub-sale or secondary market.
Okay.
But right now, where we have been strong in has been in helping developers to sell their new launches. And we've been doing this since 2015.
Right.
So happy to say, I think we've gone quite far thus far. And yeah, but it's now where we start to open up to other sectors like the agency market, the banking sector, because we are an end-to-end property platform. So when you say an end, it's not just about selling, it's also about funding and finally about managing your property. So that's where MHub is right now.
So starting in 2015, and then you end up with 2020, and you were growing, and 2020, boom, COVID just happens.
Right.
And you're dealing with all these new launches and whatnot. Now, being Asian, I suppose we've been taught since we're very, very young that owning a property is very important because it's an asset, it will grow and this, yada, yada, yada. But now, the market is just such that we don't even know whether we should buy. What is the market like right now? 2020, COVID. Is it a tough market for you guys on the other side?
So your question is very, very pertinent because I think when MCO started, all of us who are involved in the property sector, developers included, big question mark. What does this mean? Because the dependency on going to sales gallery, the human interaction with your clients is all very much part and parcel of property sales.
Yeah.
You're not talking about e-commerce where you can buy something off Lazada. You're buying a real asset, most probably your most expensive purchase in your life.
Yeah.
So what will happen? Will people still buy? And that was the question we had at the beginning. I'm happy to say that it's not all doom and gloom, because fast forward to where we are today, if you look at transactions that have taken place in the primary market, it's still quite healthy. It's down, no doubt about that, but you're talking about maybe 20% down on people are still buying. You know, it's a question of whether you have the resource, the platform or the tools in order to sell. So we have found from our own experience in MHub that if you give the right tools to the developer and to the buyer, you will find buyers and people will pay. Because there's still a lot of liquidity in the market. People still want to own homes. That hasn't changed.
But that's for if you have cash.
Yes.
If you have enough reserves and whatnot. But I'm looking at 80% of Malaysians that who can't even afford to pay for certain things, pay for schools for their kids and pay for food and whatnot, right? It's a tough market out there. I mean, for the lower end, right, I suppose.
That is the big challenge, I think, moving forward. Not only developers, but the government has. And there's a big focus on Scheme Rumah Pertama, which is the first-time home buyers. So the government is really trying to push this agenda to get first-time home buyers to be able to afford to get loans for their homes.
Right.
So right now, it's all about cash flow, margin of finance.
Yeah.
And you're right, it is hard to get loans now because banks are pulling back. They're stricter with their screening process, they're more careful. And also, don't forget, when the moratorium ends in end of September, you know, what question is what's going to happen to the funding market?
Correct.
So all of that plays into this, but I think because the demand is still there, it's just a matter of helping deserving buyers qualify for loans. So the government has come up with this SRP program, which is something that MHub is really trying to help push to the forefront to get buyers aware of it, educate them, and consider that for funding option.
All right. Now, the question is though, if you have oodles and oodles of cash, is property still a good investment even in these times? Obviously you say yes, but there's a lot going on right now that people are trying to find a job even in many cases, right? Not everybody is an entrepreneur. But Dato Seri Vincent, you are called the guaranteed rental returns king. Many people have told me that.
Yeah.
If you have money, would property still be where it's at right now, or should you be investing money into something else?
If you invest on startup companies, generally probably the success or the exit strategies or the exit success plans will probably be a ratio of one successful venture or investment out of probably 100 or 150 or even 200 companies that you invest, that startup.
Right.
So which means that if that's money, that's the only money you have, don't put it into startups. Okay, now, so if we are talking about between February to July, that juncture, I think people were not looking at property. People were dumping in their money. Most people, generally retail investor, was dumping their money into stocks. Now we are moving on from after July. The scenario has changed again. And from a property developer, a property industry player point of view, I've started to realize and see interest into property coming back into people buying the real bricks and mortar.
Right.
So the questions and the situation will be this. A key one before I answer that. COVID, I think it's very negative, big impact even to property developers, to advertising agencies or SMEs and whatsoever. So we are talking about the bread butter. We're talking about the people who, whether they still have a job or not. Moratorium, there won't be extension. It seems that the finance minister has made it clear, no extension. So I think after the big challenge will be after October. So really big challenge. So let's see October and the next 6 months what will happen to the property market. And I personally don't think that it's going to be a good situation. Is it still good time to buy? Now, in any event in 2020 as well as 2021, it is a buyer's market. You can pick and choose properties that you would like to stay. Preferably, if you're buying for your own stay, this is the best time in your whole life. Go slowly and pick it, because people who have bought it will be more than willing to actually be more realistic in their expectation of the selling price and let go. Even in terms of rental, expectation of the rental rates and all that. This is for residential as well as for commercial, even on office space. So you'll be expecting rental adjustments. But that does not mean that people who bought the properties last year, the year before, or 2 years ago, or 6 years ago, or 12 years ago, they are losing money if they are selling this year cheaper. No, because when they bought it 6 years ago or 7 years ago, it was already so much lower. Instead of trying to sell it at 1 million, their intended selling price, but they have to make do and be satisfied with probably 850,000. So that looks like a big drop. But what was the cost that they bought? It's probably only 480K or 520K or maybe 550K. All right. So there is still a gain. There's still a margin. There's still a profit. So it's up to the individual property buyers. So are there scenarios of people buying 400K and then now trying to sell back at 400 below? There are. Yeah. I personally don't think that the numbers are huge or big itself. So it's about the asset class, the type of properties that you invest. See, as seasonal and economy and industry goes itself, if you say, hey Vincent, is it right this time around for me to go in and buy, for example, industrial lots itself? Why not? Depends where you buy, what is it for? Is it to complement the e-commerce industry, or where are you buying, for example? And some people are asking, oh, I'm buying some resorts or whatsoever with guaranteed rental. But you must always realize and think about what would be the alternative usage in the event that it's not used. Some people have invested into university rooms. Right. That means the colleges or the developer sells university rooms. Rooms, just a room, not even an apartment. Rooms means that it's very small size and it's rented by the university or the college itself. So, and we know now because of this COVID, this year and next year, it's really a bad year for private universities and colleges. Prove me wrong, but I think majority of the private colleges and universities that dependent on a lot of foreign students are suffering and will continue to suffer.
Because they can't bring in students anyway, right? Yeah.
So now, you see, you have that room, you bought it, and well, probably you rent it to a university or whatever not. But the issue is this: yes, there was a guarantee, that's good, but the issue is when you take it back, can you easily, comfortably, as the owner of the building, owner of that property, be able to lease it back to the external parties easily? Could there be an issue of accessibility, or because of the structure design of the whole building that you have no choice but need to forever and ever continue only rely on one potential tenant, which is actually the university or college?
Right, okay.
So it's that kind of scenario. So even if you invest on, say, like resorts plans or projects itself, you say you invest on maybe one chalets in the island or whatsoever not, many chalets and all that. So you say that, I invested, now I want to sell. But you said there's a challenge is, who are you going to sell to?
Yeah.
How? Because it's already part of in order for that product to be successful, it's part of a big management corporation. So you are still now have to rely on that big major body itself. So I would honestly think three key things in the big reply, in the long-winded reply to you. It's what type of asset are you buying? If you're buying for own stay, this is the best time. But if you were saying that, is it still a good time to invest? Well, if you have the means and you think that you can handle the moratorium of whatever installments and etc. that you have, go ahead. It's okay to pick the right products itself, because I believe property prices, price per square foot. Let's not just think about residential. There are also other component types of products that you can invest. There's a lot of other asset class in property related that you can still invest itself. Right, so that's the situation itself. So people without jobs, etc. All that, yes, I know there are property developers. In fact, not few, many, that they are downsizings and they are retrenching staff as well. Yeah. So even recently, I have put in my Facebook and say that I welcome and I'm opening, and there's a big, massive recruitment. Coincidentally, we are embarking a big project, and with the COVID, actually helped us to push us to even grow faster and better. Somehow, because the angling of our project was a township on healthcare and wellness,
right? And
the Ministry of Health and the Ministry and the local authority at DBKL were very fond of it. So they kept on pushing and giving us all the approvals and give us all the support. And files moved faster than our expectation.
Right.
We were expecting a 3 months processing, for example. Some of it came up even faster than that. And we were like, this is faster than what we thought. But the key thing is this: there are many developers, public listed company and private companies. There's two sets of thoughts there. Private developers and public listed company developers have different strategy. They must have different business model and strategies. Okay. Right. You have your shareholders and you have private companies. Some companies, depending on what stages, you can hold your land and can hold on. You can restructure and you can resubmit. You can have your time. But there's also the situation that you have good big developers that actually sitting on big plots of land, plantation based and etc. All that. None of their land is charged to the bank, so they have no problem. They can slowly still plan their landed projects and etc. All that. Sit on it, take their time and roll. But there are many that maybe buy small plots, and they probably have geared all their lands itself. So they will still come out and launch it itself, a new project itself, with the government's incentives and subsidies. I think it's a good time to buy, because be realistic. You know it's tough market, you know it's good time, developers know it's tough to sell, they'll do their best to whatever package they do, like what MHub's strategies and they'll be doing. I think they will have good business even after this when the whole MCO clears itself, because the developers need to clear. One of the channels, they have to look for MHub.
So property prices are dropping. It's a good time to buy if you have the money, of course. If you don't have the money to buy, obviously you need to get a loan, right? Can you get a loan? Because these days, it's not about getting 80% financing already. Potentially, my job might be secure, but I have, they cut my pay or stuff like that. There's a lot of things that have been going on. So I go to a bank. I submit all my papers. Can I get a loan for a property? That's the big question.
This problem is not COVID related only. Okay? The problem with loan rejection being very high in Malaysia has existed over the last few years. Loan rejection can go up, depending on who you ask, from anywhere between 40 to 60%. Being an ex-developer myself, I can tell you that that's quite a problem for us, because you always have to keep on finding new buyers to buy the same unit. And it's marketing costs, it's time, it's not efficient. But I think COVID has made it maybe worse, because banks are even stricter now. And so you see some banks pivoting to just focusing on people with fixed income. They're not even going to look at variable income, right? And so if you are a business person, what are the chances of you getting a loan? But in saying that, I think technology has helped a bit more, because what we are looking at is not just what a person has on a piece of paper, his secret score, his CITOS score, right? But basically his repayment habits. And there are ways and means in which you can get to know a person by looking at some of his spending habits. So this is what we call alternative scoring. And a lot of banks are now turning to alternative scoring as a way to kind of determine whether a person will be able to repay the loan. Again, this is not a cookie cutter answer. You have segments of the market that will really be shut out of getting financing. Okay, that one is a long-term problem. But for those who are in a position to finance the loan, I think you have opportunities in which you can put your case before the bank and make sure that the bank sees enough information or evidence that you are able to repay the loan. Also depends on your margin of financing. So if so I know cases where a buyer on his own can't get a loan, but if you combine him with the wife, or you have maybe a parent, because the last generation is richer than this current generation. If you have a parent who is prepared to act as a guarantor, or maybe to help put down some money on the down payment, you may find yourself being able to cross that hurdle and get a loan. So it's case by case. I would tell people, go find out. Go find out. Be financially literate. And there's enough information out there for you to determine whether or not you can qualify for a loan. So in the MHub ecosystem, we have some tools that you can use. Like we have a loan eligibility scoring system.
Right.
It's what you call a debt service ratio calculator.
It's like credit rating kind of thing.
It's your ability, how much loan can you raise for a property of a certain value, and what is your monthly commitments. So you have that as a tool. You also have credit checks you can do where we will tap into CCRIS and get your repayment habits, right? So those tools are available, and there are other companies that also provide these kind of tools. Go use them. They're not expensive to use.
Right.
I think you don't want to be penny wise, pound foolish. Get access to these kind of tools. Your agent can help you, your sales staff can help you, and find out what you qualify for. I think a lot of people walk away from a property ownership simply because they think they cannot afford it.
But a lot of people think about this in a way where back in my parents' time, when they were in their 20s, they could afford a house already. They bought a house. And then people are still harping on them, on their backs, and saying how millennials are so not hardworking, they can't get paid, they can't even own their own house. But cost of living has gone up.
It has.
It's really, really high, yet salaries have not matched up.
They're not caught up, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's an inherent problem. It's a systemic problem that nobody has been trying to fix, right? So you're telling me the only way a 20-something-year-old can actually get a house is to either get married or get some money from the parents.
I think typically you
Because they're not going to get 80% financing, right?
Yeah, they may not get 80% financing, but I think typically you find that people tend to get married after they tend to buy a house after they get married.
Yeah.
Right? The ownership comes with stability and bringing up a family. So if you look at the number of marriages in this country, I think last year it was about 200, slightly more than 200,000 marriages. Then you can see that potentially you could have up to a demand for about 200,000 new homes. I mean, I'm simplifying it for you, right? But if both parents are working, which is very common these days, then you potentially can get up to maybe 10,000 ringgit to, I think if you have proper planning, I think it boils down to this lah. How are you managing your lifestyle? If you're a young graduate or a young salaried staff, right? What about your student loan? Have you paid that off? What are your plans to pay off your student loan? Because I know the student loan is very much part and parcel of your debt baggage, right? Yeah. So you got to plan this.
They don't pay back the PTPN.
They don't pay the PTPN. And then that's a problem. It doesn't go away. It remains there, right? And it gets caught up in your credit checks. So it's very important that young people today recognize they have tools that they can use to do financial planning, more so than during our time.
Yeah.
We kind of had to make do with, trial and error. Figure it out.
Yeah.
But now you have there's so many types of professions geared towards helping you get a loan.
Yeah.
Right? Mortgage brokers, financial consultants, even your insurance agent can help you to, put something together.
Yeah.
So make use of that. If home ownership for you is a priority, make that come true by proper planning, how you manage your debt.
Let me tell the new generations or the young adults about buying homes. I think everyone is still caught up with that. We do proper planning, blah, 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 etc. But it's all about expectation. If this is your first home, plenty of opportunities and avenues, channels, and property projects introduced by the federal government and the state governments from Rumah Mampu Milik, etc. and all that to cater to your needs. It may not be directly at the doorstep of your Petaling Jaya, but some of the projects are also still strategically in any parts of Klang Valley, if we are talking about Klang Valley, for example. So what I'm trying to say is this. There are projects, and there are plenty of projects and properties that is under such schemes, where the eligibility is up to 10,000 or 15,000 of salary per month.
Okay.
Which I think most of them, if you don't have a property, you are still, you likely still fall below the 15,000 a month of income. So you're definitely entitled to buy this property, for example, ranges from 180K to 380K. The issue is, you keep on saying you cannot get loan because you're trying to buy a 450,000 ringgit of property.
Right.
But why can't you focus and buy a 260,000 property that is still in a certain areas that is comfortable and is still very good? Because the content, the type, the finishes, and the standard and the location of such projects itself. I'm not talking about low cost. Bear in mind, I'm not talking about low cost. I'm talking about affordable homes. We're talking about affordable homes of this kind of price range itself. There are plenty, and it's unsubscribed and undersubscribed even in DPKL, in MPSJ, in MPK, in Klang area, and everywhere.
Right.
Every district have that problem because they already impose on the developer two category of people: developers to build and sell at certain prices, availability, and undersubscribed. That means not enough people applying to fill up the quota, and the developers are bleeding because they have to build up the whole thing before they can continue and get their CF of the other parcels,
Okay.
all right, which is the free pricing.
Yeah.
So it's about the mindset. I want to tell the young generations, I only bought my first property at the age of 28 that time.
Right.
27, 28, just maybe about a year before I got married. So it was very tough. It was a long journey. So I didn't have much property education and all that. But I'm trying to tell is this: if your first, and that was 150K ringgit of apartment.
Right.
150.
And back in the day,
Yeah. And I still keep the house until today.
Wow. Okay.
Right? Because I'm collecting rental.
Right,
It was only 150K. So
Right,
I'm collecting good rental yield.
Right,
Very good years, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Now, what I'm trying to say, and I stay in the house. So I bought it for own stay.
Right.
See, the problem is, you keep on trying to apply for 420,000 ringgit, and your income is only that example, 3,800 ringgit or 4,600 ringgit, whatever price lah, whatever salary range you are. Ignore and take into consideration of the salary cut and blah blah blah, etc. That the issue is mismatch. Why are you trying to go so
Right.
far
Okay.
and trying to aim for 900,000 like what your other peers who actually, or your other cousins that are buying, or the other colleagues that are buying and staying in a certain area and they're buying a 700,000 ringgit house?
Yeah.
Of course, I would reject you if I'm a bank. So it's about the affordability and the range, step by step. Okay, if you don't have that big down payment, even if you've gotten it from your parents itself, you would not qualify in your loan application. It's about a mismatch. 40 to 60%, I would say, probably 1/3 of them documentation incomplete.
Right.
That means they didn't justify themselves and didn't do properly submitting, etc. That they thought is good enough.
Right.
Another 1/3 is what? You totally cannot even afford to be able to service the loan interest in it. Therefore, the bank would have to reject you.
Yeah.
Another 1/3 is what? Your payment record and your capability in terms of track records and etc. That probably there's some problems. Meaning that probably you had some already few loans already. So which status are you now? If you're talking about the new one, because your question was about the new people, the new generation. First property, right? If you're buying a second, I'm going to say, so you got a one person stay two property, is it? So likely it's going to be a second one is for investment.
Yeah.
When it's for investment, it's different criteria. Make it clear, you're buying for what reason? Are you buying for own stay or are you buying for investment? The strategy changes. All right? If you're thinking, oh, I'm going to buy this double-story house and I think I can get a rental yield of very, very high, come on, do your bit of market survey and the product knowledge and do about that. Listen to a little bit more talk, seminars, and different sharing. But never listen to one guru. Probably you realize that 7 of them are bullshitting. Honestly.
Right.
All right? Honestly. Okay, why I'm saying that, I'm a developer. Anyway, I'm not a guru. And I also buy and sell and also invest on other people's project and my own project and etc. and my past projects and whatever not. I also get burned. I also do mistakes. I also buy correct.
So you failed
make
before,
money.
yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So these are along the way. But because at certain level stage, you remember you're buying within your means. But if you go and follow and buy, no down payment, and want to buy, book yourself and submit 3 loans at the same time and try to do that thing and buy 3 property, you will get burned.
Yeah.
Okay, because the season, the waves and the property cycles will come. And when it comes, it hit you badly and you get bankrupt.
Right.
Because what we say is, it's going to be one of the single heavy things. So number 1 is expectation. Come on, buy within your means. Must do die to impress your wife or your girlfriend that you buy in example, Desa Park City.
Yeah.
Come on lah, you're far from it, man.
Yeah.
Alright, even if Desa Park City, honestly speaking, there are still surrounding the area also got affordable homes project. Affordable is not cheap, Low cost is that level. Affordable means it still has full facility, full category and all that. So I just want to address about the loan because I get very angry when people say, oh, cannot buy, loan, or keep on rejecting, of course.
Yeah.
But I have to say, nowadays in 2020, where earlier when some banks, not all banks, some banks when they take into consideration of your total rental income, maybe you have 2 other properties, the last time they still take your rental income and calculate into your capability to repay. But because of this current market situation, some banks chose not to add that rental income per month into your calculation to calculate your capability.
But it's different from bank to bank though, right?
It's different from
It
bank
depends
to
on the
bank.
banks.
Yeah.
It depends on the banks, but every bank is super cautious.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, but when you're super cautious means that if you get the loan approved means that they are very confident and comfortable that you should very likely be able to do and service it. No banks want to get an NPL, non-performing loan. So that's the issue I'm trying to share.
Right.
I agree with Dato Seri. I think this is the problem, is a lot of people, especially when you're buying a home to live, you get a bit emotional. You want
especially the
something
first
really
one, because
nice.
you're
living there,
Yeah.
right? You're gonna bring your children there. You want to make sure it's cozy, it looks nice, right? It's safe. But I think that's
It's okay to upgrade. It's okay to upgrade.
Yeah. So you always have this
single story,
dilemma,
double
this
story,
tension.
and move on.
Correct.
People don't want the first day straight away go and buy a 3-story.
That's right. Yeah.
And then, me and my wife, both of us married, both of us are managers, combined income XX amount, we struggle all the way just to buy that semi-D.
Yeah. So in a way,
And that's your first property.
you do really need to plan
Bravo.
this. You need to plan this. You need to you have to make sure that you qualify for the loan. And that's
Yeah.
why these tools that I mentioned are important. Because people tend to think that they can afford something more than they actually can.
Pipe dreams, all right?
Pipe dreams, right?
Yeah.
Because this is the aspiration, right?
Yeah.
Ownership is the aspiration.
Yeah.
But when you actually get faced with the reality, because numbers do not lie,
Yeah.
right? Then you are more realistic. So when it comes to selection of a unit, instead of that 3-bedroom apartment, maybe choose a 2-bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
Or maybe choose another developed location where it's a bit more affordable.
Right.
And like Dato Seri says, there are a lot of government schemes out there that can help you to finance a property purchase.
Right.
But you got to be realistic. So
So don't be picky. Buy within
To a
your
point,
means,
yeah.
because you know that because the amount of money that you're putting in, it hasn't even put into like cost for renovations and everything.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
And it's a long-term thing. It's not a sprint, because a lot of people think, buy one place and I'll live there for the rest of my life and everything, but you might not. You wanna
Not really. Actually, it's just like share market. If the stocks are losing money, just let go and cut
Yeah,
it
yeah.
off and let go. So if to me, I believe in properties related, you can continuously upgrade. Upgrade after 7 years, fine. I mean, do you need to upgrade and every 3 years? No, not necessary. If you're happy with a place, just stay on yourself. It doesn't mean that all rich people must be in bungalow. There
Yeah.
are people who are very comfortable still staying in that semi-D.
Yeah.
Right, for example. So it's about lifestyle. He said about that. Yeah. So that's very good.
one thing I like to highlight is that I'm not so sure about the affordable housing programs these days, but when you talk about low cost, it very often was the case that a developer who had more than a certain number of acres of land must build low cost on their land. And the match between my high-end property and the low-cost housing sitting next by to it doesn't make sense, right? So what tends to happen is that the developer has to find another piece of land in which they will put the low cost. In return, they will get back this piece of land, which is what they really want. And so what happens as a result of that is that these houses get built in locations nobody wants to live in.
Yeah.
It's just fulfilling government quota.
Right. And that's why there's so many empty.
So there's so many empty low-cost units. And we talk about affordability homes. I mean, are they in locations that people want to be in? If you are talking about reaching out to a segment of the market that cannot afford to spend too much money on travel, on tolls, then you want to build closer to places where they work. Infrastructure, commercial developments becomes a consideration. But these things sometimes are an afterthought. So you build these homes and people still have to travel a fair distance in order to get to their place of work. Then you ask yourself, I save money here, but I spend on travel.
Correct.
I spend on petrol, right? And does that make sense? So all of that is something that I think really needs to be addressed at a macro level. But in saying that, there are jewels. And I know someone who bought a property, affordable home in Jalan Pudu. Very nice place.
Okay.
For about 300 something thousand.
You can still buy something affordable in Pudu.
You can, but you need to really look and see what's available out there. Like Dato Seri said, don't just talk to one property guru.
Talk to a lot.
Talk to a list of people, a group of people. Find out more about the market. Where's the best place to plant your seeds so that you can grow a nest.
Right.
So these are things that I believe there are always solutions. It's just that we need to know how to navigate it.
Okay.
And most people just give up. And then they make wrong choices, right? So yeah, tools are there.
Speaking of choices though, buying or renting. So if you want to buy something that you can afford, you're going to be in the middle of nowhere. And then you have to spend a lot of money to travel and whatnot. So do you throw that buying out of your mindset and then just stick to renting then? Is renting long-term, renting, in some cases renting to buy, there's an option as well. Which is a better option then?
Okay, so one property developer who I won't mention, but it has been a really big influence on me, told me many years ago that actually if you want to live in a place, it's better for you to rent that place. Because for him, his mindset is this: if you want to own a property, that property, you're going to spend a lot of money on it. Why not make that property work for you?
Okay.
So rent it out, because then it will yield income. Like Dato Seri here, he said, he has bought his first property, he's renting it out. Fantastic yields. Now yields are very hard to chase because property prices are so high, right?
Yeah.
So buy a property for the sake of investment, then rent another property. Now, what's the beauty of that? The beauty of that is that the maintenance, the upkeep of the place.
It's not paid for by the owner.
It's not paid for. Yeah, it's paid for by the owner, right? And when you reach a point in your life where you don't have to think so much about money, then you can indulge a little bit, buy the home of your dreams, right?
Yeah.
But not from day one where you have to slog to pay your monthly mortgage. But I think the good news about the millennials, and I know we've kind of been dissing them, is that is that millennials, if you look overseas, right, in Western countries, millennials don't have that kind of affinity for ownership as much as we do over here.
The Westerners, I suppose.
The Westerners,
right.
Because they love the freedom, they love the remoteness of their life. They can work anywhere.
And they can up and leave it.
They can up and leave. They love that sense of flexibility, right? The freedom. And I think with the new generation of, the shared economy, I think you're going to see more of that.
Yeah.
More millennials saying, why do I have to own? The whole theory about homes are going to be a sort of a hedge against inflation. I'm going to make a lot of money in the future. That is being questioned now.
Yeah.
Okay, I know that if you had bought your property maybe 10 years ago, you would see values have increased.
That's an asset.
But if you bought a property 5 to 7 years ago, it is very likely, also depends on where you have bought, that your value hasn't increased that much.
Yeah.
I know this because some of our clients want to do refinancing. So when we look at refinancing, we look at how far back you own your property. If you have bought your property between 2010 and 2012, you have a good chance of refinancing it.
Right.
If you had bought it in 2013 to 2020, it's very hard for you to get refinancing.
Right.
Because your property value hasn't gone up enough to justify you refinancing the property. So there is that comes into play as well. So people are questioning it's an asset that will continue to grow in value.
Right.
I mean, you look at other countries like Hong Kong and Singapore,
Yeah.
property prices have yo-yoed up and down because of the speculative
Yeah,
effect. Malaysia, not so bad. I mean, we are unaffordable, but our prices are still quite low compared to other Southeast Asian countries around us, right? But the theory remains the same, right? I think you want to own a home when you can own a home.
Yeah.
Sure, I did talk about education, about financial literacy, because you may be able to own a home if you know your numbers and you know your planning is done well.
Yeah.
But there are people who want to buy a home because it's just something that you have to do.
Yeah.
Right? I think for those people,
It's a mindset issue.
It's a mindset. Don't slog to pay your monthly repayments. If you can't afford it, consider rental. If you want, especially if you don't want to travel so far, right? Maybe I have a young friend who bought a house in Semenyih. Right? So I said to him, okay, because
Semenyih seems to be on the minds of
yeah.
I don't know
So
why.
there are a few places that just pops up from time to time, right? So Semenyih is one of them, and so he could afford it, but he lives in KL, he works in KL.
Right.
So my advice to him is, when the house is finally ready, it should be ready in the next 1 or 2 years.
Yeah.
Consider renting it out. You are still young. You're not even married, right? Why do you want to commute to work? Why not rent out that place to a family of 3?
Yeah.
Right? Three children or 2 children and a couple. Because they don't mind staying in Semenyih, right?
Yeah.
But you work in KL, rent out that home.
Rent a studio or whatever.
Something like that, yeah? And then you get to enjoy city life,
Yeah.
right? This whole area of co-living, co-working now has become a big thing.
Yeah.
A lot of developers are now kind of pivoting towards turning some of their units into co-living spaces, right? So this is an option that, if I was a young person, I'll be very excited about because I get to live in the city, I pay the rental that I can afford, and I build a nest, build a basket of funds for me to be able to pay for a property further afield that I can afford, and I can think about making good rental yields.
Yeah.
In the
And I can still enjoy the city life and everything.
And when I grow older, if I've got the
then only
money,
play around with it.
move there or buy another bigger house.
Yeah.
So I think rental still has a very big. The thing about rental is that it's only about, in the Klang Valley, it's about 30% of all agreements. 70% are still SPAs.
Right.
30% are rental agreements. But if you compare it with a city like Berlin's 80% rental agreements,
Wow.
20% SPA. Yeah. So
Serious.
you can see the difference, right? So if we tend to ape what developed countries are doing, right? Young people's mindsets.
Yeah.
You will see a greater shift towards rental rather than ownership.
Right.
And people will start delaying buying maybe to their 30s or 40s
Until when
rather
they
than
really,
early-
really can.
When they really can, yes.
Good thing that you mentioned about refinancing, because for the longest time I remember it was a big thing for banks to sell refinancing packages, zero refinancing, this, that, whatever. But now that you're saying it's not that easy to refinance a property. Maybe you want to
because of property
refinance to buy
valuations.
a second property and everything. Why is that? Are you for refinancing? Are you?
I am for refinancing. I mean, especially if cash flow is a major consideration for you. If you want the extra bit of cash to do some renovation, or you need that cash for your children's education. And don't forget, interest rates are all-time low.
Yeah.
And it's likely to remain like this or get even lower within the next few years.
Right.
So it's just the way the world is moving now. And so there are deals there that you can take advantage of that will help you to manage your cash flow. That's basically what I'm saying. But gone are the days, I feel, where your valuation has gone up every year, where it's a no-brainer. Within 5 years you can go and refinance your property.
Right.
I think it's harder these days, right?
Yeah.
It depends on where you buy, the kind of property you buy.
If you bought in Semenye,
Semenye is still new, right? So there's a lot of talk about Semenye. There's a lot of excitement, and it very much depends on what finally emerges out of all that talk and that development that goes on there. I know there's some very good property players there.
Yeah.
But I just want to highlight, Semenye don't think it's cheap. I think
It's
Semenye,
gone up,
some
it's gone
property
up.
developers' prices are
Right.
just overpriced.
oh really?
It's even
That is
more
true.
expensive than you should be buying in
Yes.
somewhere in
Some of
Cheras
it
or
doesn't
even
make sense.
Alam or whatever not.
Correct.
Right.
So to me, it doesn't make sense with that kind of pricing. But yeah, okay. I mean, there are people still buying, so
Yeah.
you're happy with it. Go ahead.
Again, it
Decide to
depends on
buy.
the project. It depends on the
Yeah,
property.
so
that
so
you-
it does not mean Semenye is cheaper.
Yeah.
But there are, of course, quite a fair bit of development there that is affordable. Fair bit means, honestly, it's not that many anyway. But I somehow see that there's a little bit more on the newer, bigger township development where, to me, it's not cheap at all.
Right.
With the same price,
Yeah.
I will concur what you have suggested just now. With the same price, I probably recommend them buy nearer to town, nearer to city itself.
Right.
So if
That-
you touch
yeah.
on that is just one example. So let's not think like, for example, somewhere a project that in Tengkeo or in certain places is cheap. Honestly, it is not at all.
Yeah.
So if you bought it at the price because of the brand name or reputation of the developer,
Yeah.
or because you were fascinated by the brochure, or because you were actually awed by the sales gallery, that's your fault.
Right. Because you
Because
based
you
on
bought it
sentiment.
overpriced.
Yeah, exactly.
You bought it overpriced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but you go to the basic, what actually you need. What actually meets your requirement, all right? Why in the first place did you buy? So like your friend who bought in Semenye, why did he buy that?
Yeah.
Did he buy it intending to stay there, for example? So
Yeah.
there's a lot of this kind of
Right,
consideration.
yeah. A lot of things to consider.
So if you have a lot more people who likes to think which is suitable to rent it, fine. It'll be happy for people like us and many people. We continue to own, you continue to rent, and thank you very much. You continue to take your rental and continue to buy more property.
Yeah.
And continue to, like the whole philosophy in China and in many other countries itself, continue to own many more assets and properties.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's a good balance. I am not encouraging everybody to buy property. If you think it's right to rent, continue to rent.
Yeah.
Landowners, landlords will be more than happy to continue collect your rental.
Yeah.
Let's be very careful with what I've just said.
Yeah.
Think very carefully and deep.
Right.
So if you think renting is the way forward, if it's suitable, do that. But if you think forever and ever in the whole entire life you should rent, it's fine also, because all the landlords will continue to thank you
They
for
will
it.
love you. Yeah.
Yeah. So think about that.
Right.
So it's about like Grab. So that comes of philosophy. You may not need to own cars in future. Same. I also understand that you may not need to buy and own your office space in future. So because co-sharing space,
Yeah.
etc. You may not need to actually own your property in future. You can continue stay on in the long-term Airbnb for the rest of 99 years that you are alive. Fine. All the landlords will continue to thank you for it. It's fine. It's your lifestyle. There are people who just happy don't want to own any assets throughout their whole life and happy to have just one car.
But Victor actually mentioned like rent while you can,
Yeah.
and then when you're feeling confident,
Yep.
then only
Yeah,
buy.
That's right.
Right?
Yes.
Yep.
I think
When
it
the
makes
day comes.
sense. It does make sense for some people.
Yeah.
Because nowadays the world is your oyster, right? You
Yeah.
can go anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
So unless you are very certain you want to remain in Malaysia or in KL, you might not have that need to make those kind of choices
Yeah.
right now.
Except Malaysia's interest rate is just too low.
Really?
Super low. The mortgage
yeah.
interest rate is so
Oh, yeah,
low.
right.
So low that you might as well buy and
Buy,
pay
yeah,
installment
yeah.
rather than paying rental.
Right. Okay.
That's just one exception
One
that
exception,
I just want to highlight.
Okay.
Had the interest rate be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12%, then I mean,
Okay.
I will stand
Continue to rent.
corrected lah.
Right.
You can continue rent. But because the interest rate is so low, and so many developers also have projects and programs and special schemes like
RTO.
rent to own.
Yeah,
There
yeah,
are so
yeah.
many developers
Yeah, yeah.
introducing that.
Yeah.
So if you are still paying the rent, and eventually the amount of money can be transferred and translate into part payment for the purchase
yeah.
when you chooses
Yeah.
to exercise the option,
Yeah.
okay what?
Yeah, some
That's
of them
fine.
actually rent to buy, and after that, after 2-3
Yeah.
years, it becomes part of your S&P.
Yeah.
Then you would have paid the
Yeah.
down payment and everything already.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
many schools of thoughts lah.
Many-
so
many schools of
it's,
thought.
it's,
Let's know-
it's up to everyone. So
Yeah,
if
it's up
everybody
to
buys and no one
every
rents,
individual.
it's difficult
Yeah.
for the landlords also.
But actually-
so we're more than happy.
You mentioned the world is your oyster, and you can go anywhere you want. You
Except now.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
can't go anywhere.
You technically can't go anywhere you want right now because of COVID and whatnot.
Yes.
We kind of have to stick around. Well, we really don't know for how long, right? They're trying to open up the markets and everything.
Yep.
But while we're here, if you have a property that you're already paying for and you're paying the installments for it and whatnot, there have been multiple incentive plans that the government has come up with and whatnot. Penjana, what else is that? The stamp duty exemption. There's been the moratorium, which unfortunately is ending in October. Does it help? Does it really, really help homeowners who are like the bottom part of M40 and the B40, higher part of B40? Does it really help?
In the long run, we need to see what happens beyond this year, next year. I don't know whether you share this view, but I think the new normal is here to stay for a long time.
Yeah.
Even if we find the vaccine, that's not going to be an answer to all our woes because it will take time to roll that out. And
Apparently it's free.
Apparently it's free, but you still have to make it.
Yeah,
you still
yeah.
have to test it.
Yeah.
And there's so many uncertainties.
Yeah.
So when you talk about long run, I don't think you need to look too far ahead to know that there's a lot of uncertainty moving
Right.
to 2021, 2022. And so if you have this relief, it definitely helps because it's a cash flow issue. Right now, cash is king. And if you don't have cash flow, forget about whether you want to own a property or not. Huh?
Yeah.
Whether you can actually afford to go to school. I read that if you look at the statistics, those who are in the B40 category, the children are eating Maggi Mee, they're not going to school. So when you are dealing with these kind of hard issues, ownership of property is really secondary.
The last thing.
Yes, it's the last thing on your mind. So beyond October this year, there is actually a 3 months moratorium
Yeah.
for those who have lost their jobs or if you have got a pay cut of more than 30%. I believe it's another 3 months additional. But beyond that, I just had a conversation with a bank today, and the concern here is they've started to categorize people under different risk levels, right? And then they're making assumptions on the basis of certain information they have, and now they're trying to deal with these different people in these different categories. There's going to be a segment of our population that is going to be so badly affected, they cannot afford to pay for their rental, for their mortgage. The properties are going to go under auction.
Yeah.
So we can see this coming no matter what the government does with the relief programs. So what the government has done is actually putting a sort of a band-aid on a existing problem.
Yeah.
In a way, that's true. The band-aid helps because it gives more people an opportunity to try and find ways to restructure, right?
Yep.
But there will be a segment that will not be able to put their
Moratorium
head
or
above
not, right?
moratorium or not. So
Yeah.
so I think it's basically looking at different segments and finding different solutions for different groups of people in our society.
Dato Seri, what do you think of the incentives?
Okay, I think let's be a bit more specific. I think the Penjana and etc. the incentives are primarily, let's refocus and look at it. It's primarily for new launches.
Yeah.
So we are not talking about the sub sales. So the new launches, honestly speaking, it does help the property developers.
Right.
And henceforth, many people and entrepreneurs and people, owners, property owners in the industry and everywhere were asking, hey, how come it didn't help that sub-sale market that much? Whereas the schemes, the incentives are primarily applicable for new projects, new launch itself. So I just want to highlight that point, so you think about it on that one. Secondly, there are a range of a scope of a category of prices. For example, the HOC with ownership with stamp duty and loan exemptions, etc., all that waivers are for property prices between 300K to 2.5 million. So I was thinking, up to 2.5, that's quite a lot and high-end property, honestly speaking.
Yeah.
300K, why can't it start from maybe 100K? What about those people who actually really wanted to enjoy all these benefits and they're really in that B40, they are buying properties below 300K?
Yeah.
Why are they not taken care of?
Yeah.
Why is that segment not taken care of? Why is it starts from 300K? Why are you advocating that property prices above 300K only enjoys this?
Yeah.
All right. So indirectly, some developers in suburban, in everywhere, where the property prices were meant to be priced at 260K, push it to 300K, so that you enjoy it.
Right.
All right. So anyway, maybe the developers maybe bankers, I do not know. I'm just anticipating. Maybe they give some rebate back to the buyers anyway. But it's just to help them to have to meet that 300K.
To meet the bracket, right?
Yeah. So that the SPA price will be rated like 302K.
Right. Okay.
Example.
Okay.
So you
That's
qualify.
why. All right. I
Okay.
see a lot
So
of that.
anyway, so you see, I'm already given the pointer. Let's be very specific. What has the government done? All right, in that. So you're talking about rental rebates, where you're talking about if you give rental rebates to your tenants, about 30% itself, more than 30% of your previous rental itself, then you are entitled to tax rebates and so all that. But provided your tenant is a registered SME.
Okay.
But that point, I think 80% of landlords in Malaysia is not aware of that.
Yeah.
All right, then the argument comes. It was a personal makcik or whatever that is not registered.
Right, okay.
That rented from you. Maybe the rental even 900 ringgit, whatever not, for your level 2 second floor of your shop lot or whatever not. So, and operating some maybe whatever business
Right.
and not registered as SME. So you thought and you gave that rental rebate of 30%.
Yeah.
I'll give you. Of course, you will not get a full rebate of the entire 30%, but you know that you still need to give some to help back your tenant
Right.
or that. Unfortunately, after giving that and after agreeing and after move on, oops,
You're not.
they are not a registered
Yeah.
SME.
Yeah.
When the government, if you want to do this, please let it open for everybody, not just the SME. What about a normal other individuals and etc. and all that?
Yeah.
And we'll talk about the limit of some limitations of the up to 3 properties. The RPGT exemptions, 1st of
Right.
June until 31st of December 2021, where the homes of RPGT exemptions are limited to disposal of 3 units of residential homes per individual. My question is this: why must it only be individual? Why until so many? If you really want to do it, you also make it applicable for companies, because there are also companies that own residential properties itself,
Okay,
and
right.
they could also let go and ease the company's operational income and etc. And they're also more than willing to actually sell at what the normal individual sells itself. So why must it is individual? And I'm just perplexed. Why is it up to even 3? You know, that kind of, for example. And so, are you trading as an individual?
Right.
Are you trading properties?
Yeah.
So, is the government encouraging a trading of properties itself? You know, that kind of. So when I look at it, extremely good effort. I will give 6 marks out of 10 marks
Right.
to the government. Extremely
6
good
out of 10.
6 out of 10.
Okay.
It can be further improved. It can be further improved. And of course, if I look at the policy itself, you want to address the developers project is developers having lots of property in hand, some not yet launched or some want to be launched because you want to be vibrant. The reason why the government is helping, I'm not saying that it's wrong to help, is the reason why the government really, federal government needs to, and state government need to help the property developers, because the property developers affects and the survivability and the strength and the industry affects at least another 400 to 600 over other industries, from the paint company to the hardware company to the steel to the sand and etc. and all that, and the lorry, the transport, and every single industry, from the furniture to the electricity, TMB, and everybody. Because if the developers slow down, the property industry slows down, the construction will slow down further, and every
Right.
other industry
Because
is
it
all
connects
affected,
everything.
interconnected.
Right.
So yes, it's right to help, but I'm saying that you could do it slightly better, and there's also another very easy way to help.
Okay.
Abolish or bring down and make it super easy one-stop center and abolish or take out the Bumi Kota.
Okay.
I'm not saying the discount, bring down the Bumi Kota.
Okay.
Because if you look at the statistics itself, you look at Johor, look at Selangor, look at all these places itself, the unsold unit by developers are the Bumi Kota units itself.
Yeah.
And you have to compensate and pay the state government in order to have the right, as a developer, have the right to open back and sell to everybody.
Yeah.
Come on. Even sell 6 million ringgit also Bumi Kota. What is this, man? So what is wrong? You want to help? Fine-tune. Think carefully. Don't think like we are all the standard 5, standard 6 kind of mindset and then just do a thing and say that, oh, I've actually now given a 27 billion or 32 billion kind of incentive, which is not in cash, only be probably 1/3 or 1/4 in cash.
Yeah.
But so, it can be improved. But extremely good effort, 6 out of 10 marks from me.
What do you think?
No, I think, okay, just to add another point, there's a structural reason why the government is pushing developer stocks. It's also because if you look at the overhang of the properties available unsold in Malaysia today, the number has been growing up incrementally.
Right.
Last 2 years ago, it was about 30 billion. I understand last year it's 45 billion ringgit worth of unsold stocks in the market today. Next year, I won't be surprised if it's 60, 65 billion.
They should break it down, break it out.
Yeah.
Bumi Kota, you need how many, and non-Bumi Kota,
So
you need
if
how
they
many.
don't deal with this problem, just think about all that resources in unused, underutilized units.
Yeah.
It will become a major problem structurally for our country when it comes to ownership. These developers, how long can they sustain having these kind of properties? If they start letting go at tremendously huge discounts, what does that do to the overall market? So I think the government is aware that we have this issue, and that's why they place so much emphasis in trying to get rid of these developer stocks. I think it helped last year. They sold about 24, 25 billion during the HOC.
Yeah.
So they said they saw that successful. They're trying to do it again this year. So we don't know what the numbers are this year. It does help, but the problem is a lot deeper than that. As Dato Seri pointed out, there's a lot of property segments and people who do not benefit from some of this, like the sub-sale market. They don't benefit from it, right? Companies do not benefit from it. So how do we address this holistically? You cannot just look at one segment. And I suppose the reason why this segment is helped is because developers have a lot of push. Right? They've got a lot of push. They've covered. They have a lot of interaction with ministers. But I think that government should start looking at society as a whole, and come out with policies that are sustainable over 5-10 years. And this is the thing about Singapore government. Singapore government takes a look at things holistically. They don't just apply it as a reaction to problems that we have now.
But again, they're much smaller and easier.
They are much smaller, easier. But again, I think with the right team in place and the right attitude, they can solve problems. Because talking from an entrepreneurial perspective, we've got people like Dato Seri who are very knowledgeable in the property market. They see the problems, they see the pain point, right? And they are able to provide solutions. And we have data, so we can also provide solutions. And I think it's just a matter of engaging.
And putting those pieces together.
We can find solutions. I'm optimistic about it, but it has to come, from top down.
Right. Now let's get to a final word for someone who wants to get into the property market, who wants to potentially buy, but maybe can't right now, or he's thinking his finances are a bit tight because of COVID. How would you sum this up in our little discussion today? We'll start with Victor.
Again, no one size fits all. You need to know where you stand financially, and I'm a big advocate for financial literacy. So I would encourage you to understand what you're getting yourself into. If it's an aspiration, just know that aspirations can be realized now, or it can be realized later. And everybody is different. So you want to see where you are, see what you can afford, then make a decision of whether to buy. Now, if you choose to buy, as Dato Seri said, choose something within a range that you can afford. I am a big believer in that as well. You do not want to kill yourself paying for financing every month, right? Now, if you realize that even after looking at all of that, you still cannot afford, no harm in renting. Like I said, there's actually an advantage to renting. If you're a young person and you work in the city, I miss this thing about being able to live close to not only where I work, but where I play. The clubs, the pubs, the places where I hang out. If I can afford to buy or rent some place close by, and it's just a matter of me taking maybe a cab ride down to where I usually hang out. To me, there's a whole world of value there. You don't have to spend time in traffic jam, pay for tolls, pay for petrol, right? Then every day look and see whether the RON 95 has gone up or down. That becomes a major consideration for you. So yeah, you want to be able to enjoy your youth. You're only young once, right? And your young adult life shouldn't be bogged down with repayments only. It should be more than that. So and now with so many offerings available in places where you can work, the kind of jobs you can choose, I think that's where your focus should be. But again, the majority of Malaysians want to own a home. So yes, do pay time and attention to that, but get educated.
Right. Dato Seri?
Okay, so you started by introduction of our session just now by saying in 1957 it cost about 30 cents per square foot to buy land.
In BJ, yeah.
In BJ. So that's talk about for about 50, 60 years kind of things. So let's move on. Let's say maybe 10 or 20 years from today, would that condo of 500,000 ringgit still be 500,000 ringgit? Would you be able to continue to earn your 6,000 salary now to become a 16,000 ringgit salary?
Right.
In that 10 years.
Okay.
Would this still be 500k? If you believe that the property price, even let's say the double story, which is 500k now, will continue to still be 500,000 ringgit 10 years from today, then just rent.
Right.
Yeah. But if you take the whole and overall picture, think carefully. Would it still be 500k for the double story house? Okay, I'm just taking an example. So don't doubt me and say that, oh, I cannot find 500k house in PJ. See, you keep on thinking of all those areas. If you are from Klang, look at Klang. What's the problem? Klang cannot find 500,000 ringgit houses? There are. Shah Alam don't have? There are.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say I'm just taking it in the right context of where you are. If that your location you are staying and then the average pricing there, for example, is 750k, so be it. Take it 750.
Okay.
So okay, I'm taking 500,000. So if you think 10 years from today, that property price will not move at all.
Still 500,000.
Still 500,000. Then rent lah.
Right.
Rent for the rest of your
Because
life.
that's what your mind. Yeah.
But if you think that it will still at least move on par, increase conservatively as per inflation of 4-5% of gradual increment, capital appreciation, it means the movement of the growth of the price for 10 years, then with the interest rate of today and foreseeably in the next 2 years, like what Victor says, that our interest rate, in fact, there could be another cut this year. But let's take an example of assuming that in the next 2-3 years, the interest rate still remains same or slightly higher or slightly lower. So it means financially, in terms of economics, it's worthwhile to buy. You should buy and own your own properties rather than paying your rental installments, paying a rental. You should be going towards paying installments itself. That's how the property works. So many people always have that mindset and say, if my parents 30 years ago accidentally bought that shop which was only 950,000 ringgit at Petaling Street, today is already worth 3.8 million. I couldn't buy it today anyway.
Yeah.
But then you could have managed or were able to buy it, but you didn't. You chose not to buy. So I'm not advocating buy high. I'm not saying must buy now. I'm saying you look at the market condition now. No money for down payment. Let me tell you, the easiest thing in the whole world to buy now is your car and the first property directly from developer. That's the easiest. Close your eyes, your IC, understanding the whole product itself with a very, very minimal down payment, 1K, 2K, 5K, you can already sign your S&P already. This is the 99% of developers, what they are trying to package to help you. That's what I'm trying to say. Buying a car so simple, buying a property so simple. First property. And that's assuming, I'm just simplifying, I'm just exaggerating a bit, but simplifying and say that it is actually a very easy process to buy directly from developer now.
Right.
It's a little bit more complicated buying a sub-sale because you have valuation report, check a loan first, etc. and all those things. But when I say buy from developer, it does not mean there's no checking. You still do a very checking, but it's very easy. So it's not difficult, and don't overthink that I need that 26,000 ringgit cash upfront in order to buy that 300,000 ringgit of house.
Right.
All right, or the apartment. All right, so honestly, you don't quite need that already. You don't quite need that full 10% and plus, etc. That remember, if you are buying a new project, let me also highlight, it takes time to build. You see, the points that I give comes from a developer and a person who likes to buy property.
Right.
So I've been buying, I've been paying installment, I have been servicing loan, I've been paying progressive construction payment accordingly. If you buy a property now in year 2020, where the market is not so great, it's a buyer's market now, and next year, I still think it's still a buyer's market. The property only completes 3 years down the road. People don't build overnight the whole project. Sometimes the project takes 4 years to complete. If you still think 2024, the market is as bad or even worse than today,
Right.
okay, go ahead and rent.
Yeah.
Remember, you are buying the property doesn't mean that if it's, even it's 420K, it doesn't mean today you're paying 420K.
Yep.
You're committing to a value of 420K of property, which as it goes in terms of construction, the economy has gone down and property industry has gone down to a level where I think really comfortably, carefully, slowly, so plenty of choices. Pick the right one you're comfortable after many consultations, bankers, friends, and etc. All that. As I said, so if I touch on that one, don't consult people who never buy property.
Right.
If you want to buy property, consult people who own a lot of properties.
Right.
Right? If you go consult a person who want to do a cook, he doesn't know how to cook. All right? Consult a chef how to cook.
Right.
All right? That's how it works. Even property gurus. Some property gurus in town, they only have 2 properties in their whole life and they talk as if they'll have 200 properties. Okay? No, sorry, I sidetracked a bit. But I'm talking about this part. Go and see carefully. I buy this property, I get the key 4 years from today. I'm assuming that it's a new launch. It could be maybe 1 year after launching.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit of construction and move out. But still you will know, 2023 or 24 or 25, 2025, you get the key. If it's still that bad in 2025,
Continue, right? Yeah, because it's a mindset
so,
problem.
so
it's not
what I'm
anything,
saying
right?
what I'm saying is that even if you're committed to this property, I'm not asking you to buy 6 property at one go. I'm not advocating like some gurus that say buy 3 at one go. No. So I'm saying that you know clearly why you buy it. So as it moves, this property market will continue to climb back. Even inflations, we're talking about interest rates, we're talking about world economy, etc. and all that. It will climb. The value of that 4,000 ringgit today is not going to be the same of the 4,000 ringgit 4 years from today. So different. So you 400, you are talking about discounted cash flow, you're talking about the value today, net present value itself. What is the value? 4 years down the road, you buy the 420K. Today is only how much?
Yeah.
So remember, new property, I'm just saying from the angle, I'm just taking one example. New property takes 4 years to construct. Come on.
Yeah.
You have all the time to get yourself ready. And the payment from the bankers are released progressively, not one shot. Even though, example, 420K, assuming you take a 400,000 ringgit loan, you don't service the full loan amount of the few thousand ringgit right from the first day. Because the bank only releases progressively as per the construction stage. You need service, depending on arrangements. Some developers even absorb it already anyway, but that's the ABS, but depending how they structure. But the ABS is not allowed anyway. But some developers have a way of structuring. So when they release 50K, 80K, so it accumulates. That's the amount that the bank has released. So
Right,
you
right.
only service interest for those amounts that you
That's
have
been
released.
released.
So please remember, if you buy 420, doesn't mean tomorrow onwards you are servicing the loan until the next 48 months for the full amount.
Right.
It takes time gradually. Yes, job security, one side. If you don't have a job, please don't think about it. Get yourself stabilized. It's all about mindset, about lifestyle and expectation. Stabilize, move on with it. You don't have any property, rent it first. That's
Right.
all my take.
Dato Seri Vincent Tiew, thank you so much for your thoughts. Brilliant thoughts. I want to talk more about this, but we'll get you back here.
Sure.
We will get you back here. And Victor Chua, thank you so much for being here. And we'll figure out what MHub eventually will become. But it's been so interesting to have a chat with you. Thank you so much for educating us.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
Thank you for watching. Once again, we're here to learn. We question, we learn, we grow. If you want to buy a property, buy. If you want to rent, go with what you can afford. But also, very importantly, be educated about it. Thanks for watching.